Ready?
I suppose we are ready.
Okay, I yes, I'm recording.
We are live. You're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
We have another very special episode. We have the 1985 movie Red Sonja. Nathan, do you have a history with this movie at all?
Oh yeah, I have a history with all the Hyborian films of the Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer. Even though this was not related to those, it does happen. I think it's in the same universe. But Conan,
Well, yeah, they say Hyborian at some point, so it's like, oh yeah, this is. But like, for legal reasons, it's not the same universe.
no.
It is based on characters by Robert E. Howard, although his original Red Sonja character with a different spelling was like some sort of like, I don't know, like 18th century like chick from Czechoslovakia or something like that. It wasn't like sword and sorcery necessarily.
No.
But then like when someone started creating the Conan comics, they basically recreated Red Sonja as this. I mean, I think so. I don't really know the history of Red Sonja, but
yeah, it's similar. I mean, Red Sonja was it was more set in like the 17th, 18th century, I think. One of those things. But then it was like brought back to the Siege of Vienna in the 1600s, and it's moved around a lot. I only read a few of the Robert Howard books. But I always liked all the Conan movies, and I include this movie in that.
Yeah,
it's kind of the same thing, same production, same. Because you got to remember, when I was growing up, we did not. Lord of the Rings were not movies. This is as close as you got to envisioning that kind of world. You had this, and you had the Conan movies, and there was a lot of movies that you could watch.
Yeah,
they were always kind of in service of like, imagine like what this would look like. Imagine if that was Aragorn, or that, or at least that was how I did it. I mean, you did have like the animated films, which were weird and cool, but this was the closest you got to like real people.
Now, which one did Ralph Bakshi do?
He did the really weird like Fellowship of the Rings.
Okay.
Animation. I think he was going to do this too. They stopped it at the last minute.
Because I always get confused, because I always thought like, because his animation style is consistent with sort of with the Hobbit cartoon version they did, which is the one I saw the most. I don't think I ever saw the cartoon Lord of the Rings ones, but the Hobbit one was done by like, oh crap, what was that company?
Like Rankin and Fitch.
Yeah, Rankin and Bass. Rankin and Bass, or is that right? Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, it did kind of have the Bakshi style to it, but it wasn't actually him. So.
Well, he only did like because you had the Hobbit, which was actually that's really good for the animated one. It was actually kind of cool. I mean, it didn't tell the story, of course, like the book, but it did a good job. And then you had the Ralph Bakshi like Fellowship of the Rings, which was really weird because it was that style of animation with rotoscope.
Yeah,
so it looked really strange. And then the people that did the Hobbit did the Return of the King, which was very much like the Hobbit. It was just the Return of the King. So there's actually 3 different things out there. But that was what you had, and that was all animated. And this was like the live action stuff you had.
And did you see this in theaters at all, or when did you see it?
I never saw any of this in theaters.
Okay, because this
is HBO.
Oh, because this was like a staple, like WGN, like for me. Because I don't know like what the rights were for it, but it seemed like this probably was cheaper than Conan, so they probably just played it constantly.
Oh yeah.
Because I definitely saw this movie a lot when I was a kid, and I remember liking it when I was a kid, which gave me low expectations for this. I was like, I bet this is gonna suck now, but I was actually pleasantly surprised.
No, I liked it a lot now, even now, but only because I have fond memories. If I went into this blind, I would have been like, yeah, this was okay.
Well, that was weird because like Internet Movie Database has they do a rating out of 10, and it's got like a 5.1 out of 10. It's like, oh, I guess like time has not done well for Red Sonja, because it's like user ratings combined with other stuff over time, so it's kind of more up to date technically. But also you can get a bot farm to review bomb that stuff, so who knows?
Yeah.
But I watched it on Amazon, and they have a 5-star rating, user ratings, and it's like 4.5 stars. So
I noticed that myself.
Director Richard Fleischer, who, interesting director. This kind of seems like a little bit maybe out of his league, but I don't know, maybe he was just way older at this time. But one of his credits is Tora Tora Tora, which is like the Pearl Harbor movie.
Yes.
Which has one of the most, I've never seen it, but I've seen that the dangerous stunt sequence that's like amazing in the movie because it wasn't meant to happen. It was amazing. Nobody got killed. They had like a remote controlled plane that like went off course and rammed into a bunch of other planes and exploding. And you see all these guys running. And it's like, oh, that was a good stunt. It's like, no, those guys aren't doing stunts. Those guys are literally running for their lives.
Yeah, those guys are really committing to the role. No, they don't want to die. What's going on?
He did like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Soylent Green.
Family's here. We're live.
Is it taking shelter from the hurricane?
Yeah, tornado. And then, I also did the Fantastic Voyage where they had to like shrink down the scientists and put them in the president to like stop some, I don't know, like aneurysm or something like that. Remember that movie?
Oh
yeah. Which I remember that being a staple of just like cable television growing up.
Yeah, the movies. This guy was essentially, I think he's what you call like just a studio director.
Yeah.
Like he was someone who just got hired, and it's like, oh, he just directs, whatever. We just attach him to projects as an organizer of a film. I don't think he particularly had a style he brought to it. It was just like, it was just like how the studio system worked back then.
Yeah. You're just a cog in the wheel. You weren't necessarily like the creative lead like they are nowadays.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we need a director for this, hire them. It's like, no, nowadays it's like we have a movie, but we need a director attached to it to get it made. So that's like pretty much a movie doesn't get made without a director nowadays, where it's like back then it's like we just need to insert somebody in the director role.
Yeah. Okay, we got a producer to control costs. Now we need a director to make it all happen. No one's like, hey, what's his vision of this? It's like, no, those conversations
but obviously he directed Conan the Destroyer, so this makes sense that he directed Red Sonja. But Red Sonja was also kind of like one of his last movies. There's also something here called $1 Million Mystery, and then there was like a short. But this is kind of like one of the last big movies he did. So
yeah,
he lived to be like 90, so good for him.
Yeah.
Cinematographer is Giuseppe Rotuno.
Italian these are guy. All players from the what is it? Who's the guy? Is it Dino De Laurentiis?
Dino De Laurentiis, who is he Italian? He is a crazy film producer who's made some of the best and most ambitious and worst movies ever made. Because whenever you see like a Dino De Laurentiis presents like at the front of a movie, it's like, oh, it's like this might be something good.
Yeah, this is a crapshoot. Good or not?
But yeah, he's like Italian cinematographer, and he did I'm trying to see what's the most like recognizable stuff that he did. He did All That Jazz. That was like a Oscar-winning movie, if I remember correctly.
I believe so. Yeah.
He did The Adventures of Baron von Munchausen.
That's a cool movie.
What's some other ones I saw on here? I guess that's all. Oh, he did Popeye.
Okay, there we go.
But yeah, like the 80s and the 70s were a time where like I don't know what was going on in Italy, but apparently like they had crazy good artists that were very cheap to employ. And because like this is where you get like the spaghetti westerns where it's like we want to make a western like the Americans do, but we're going to make it in Italy and we're going to have it kind of give it kind of a different style.
Yeah.
But also that came off as weird is because the way a lot of international movies worked back then is that you didn't record dialogue on set.
Yeah.
You shot the movie, you mouthed the words, and then it was all recorded in post. Which is also why a lot of those movies were just people were stoic and didn't speak a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Actors really like, yeah, they're not chewing up the scenery here at all. Like, yeah, they don't know what's going on or what language to speak.
And also, like half the cast would be Italian, and they just mouth English, and then of course they'd get some English speaker to talk over for them. So,
Yeah.
Which is a big thing. I like Hong Kong movies used to do that back then too. I don't think anybody still does that, although it seems like nowadays with the technology and like sort of I don't know modern trappings, you just like re-record all the dialogue anyway, so it's almost like you're doing that anyway.
Yeah.
Because there's always just something going on. You can't have a quiet. Well, it's because you're doing a lot of filming on location, which you can't control all the sound. So, you know, if you gotta film your 17th century epic, and then all of a sudden a plane flies over, it's like, well, the shot's gone. It's like,
Yeah.
well, what if it was? Let's just re-record this. But yeah, so yeah, Dino De Laurentiis was another one where they just, you know, let's get Italian crew together, let's get like $4 million, which would be kind of low for a Hollywood movie, but for Italy, it's like you're getting top talent and a lot of production value.
I seem to remember just off the top of my head, it's like there was something like there was a lira crisis that was like
Okay,
currency.
yeah.
And yeah, because I remember like sometime in the 80s they almost were like, let's go back to fascism because this is not so they had really chaotic like governments, and they were a NATO ally, so we were kind of like, well, how can we prop this up and prop that up? But yeah, so I know there was a lot of I remember something called like the lira crisis going on, and it was like, yeah, they were going into like Brazilian currency free fall. It's like, oh, yeah, you can get Italians real cheap because, you know, a dollar is worth 10 lira or something. That's why a lot of those countries went to the euro too, because they got tired of managing this binge and purge cycle. When it's like, oh, here come the fascists again, like in a big circle. Oh.
But yeah, there was
the Italians had a problem with communists too, so it was there could have been a lot of things.
But yeah, they made a lot more movies than just the ones that we got here. So like those ones I'm kind of like unaware of, but like I know always like the what's his name, Jay from Red Letter Media. He always has like finds like, oh, you got to get these weird like Italian horror movies. They're like genius and nobody ever saw them. And you know, of course, like, you know, they all made rated R movies, so they were like way different and went way harder.
Yeah, because their concept of rated R is like, oh, can we have incest in this? It's like, whoa, what are you talking about? It's important there's incest in the story. Oh man, the Italians, it's going dark.
Written by, we got Robert E. Howard as the creator. Of course, we said like he created Conan, and then kind of tangentially this Red Sonja character. He has a very sad life of like, kind of like he never really had collected books. He kind of like wrote for magazines, but you used to just like, that's how you had stories. There was like millions of magazines out there. Oh, not millions. And then you just like, they'd pay you $10, you know, or 5 cents a word or whatever. And you'd put like, you'd submit your stuff. And then later on, and what was it? He was like active in like the 30s or something like that, or how late was that?
Yeah, well, he was born. When was he born? I think he was born around like a couple years after the turn of the century.
Okay.
And I think he committed suicide in like the mid 30s.
Yeah, his mom died, and then like a couple days after their funeral or something, he just like went out to the car and shot himself in the head.
Yeah, I know it was something weird. I don't know. It had to do with his mom dying. I know he killed himself.
Yeah. Also, apparently, it took him 8 hours to die. I don't know where that trivia comes from, especially from the 40s. I don't know how, or the 50s. I'm not sure how they're determining that.
They didn't have a lot of high velocity handgun rounds, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Or he didn't use a shotgun, which is Nathan's rule of suicide: 12 gauge, 12 gauge, 12 gauge, because you don't want to be laying in a hospital bed half brain dead, because you're not going to get a second shot usually, unless you commit suicide in Russia, where you put the gun to the back of your head, revolver that holds like 5 or 6 shots, and you shoot yourself 8 times in the back of the head.
Reload.
Stop.
Yeah, those Russian. They're just tougher.
They're hard. I mean, like the one, my favorite one is the short for the media in Moscow, and she was shot to death by Remington 870 Wingmaster pump action shotgun, an American shotgun, not widely available in Russia. She shot herself 3 times in the chest with it, and it was fully, not the barrel sawed down or anything. So she shot, pumped, shot again, and then finally the third shot, she shed this mortal coil. Very sad, very sad. The Moscow chief of police was this young woman. It was a terrible tragedy, a loss of life. Oh, yeah, and the shotgun was found almost 20 feet away from her, like down on the landing of the stairs. So she flung it away at the last moment. Well, I don't know why we're talking about that.
Robert E. Howard killed himself. So yeah. Well, it's weird that like he wrote this stuff in the like the 30s and 40s or whatever, 30s and 40s, and it's lasted this long, and he really wasn't that old when he died.
In the 20s. Yeah.
So that's some. Well, yeah. Some of the trivia said kind of like really he started this sword and sorcery genre, as they termed it, or whatever. So. So like that's pre Lord of the Rings too. So.
Oh yeah. It's original. It's OG stuff, as they say. I mean, he was like a contemporary of H.P. Lovecraft. And stuff. Back.
Yeah. The screenplay was written by Clive Exton and George MacDonald Fraser. Looked at their stuff, didn't know anything. They kind of seemed to be like British playwrights that did stuff. Yeah. Cast Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bridget Nielsen, and Sandal Bergman. And that's interesting because Arnold was only supposed to do this movie for like 2 days, and he's pretty much in the whole movie, and he ended up like shooting for 3 weeks, and after that he canceled his contract with Dino De Laurentiis and never worked with him again.
So. Why?
Because he's like, because Dino was like, I need a favor. He's like, all right, I'll give you the weekend, and then he's like, well, I'll take a month then.
And then Dino probably paid him for a weekend, because he was famous for shit like that. That's what I've heard. I don't know.
Yeah, those guys, they would like magically have all the money in the world and then not have any money, but that's how businessmen work. So
yeah, it's all kind of smoke and mirrors anyway. Smoke and mirrors never benefit you. It's like, yes, I have that money I owe you. Like, you'll never hear those words.
But then every once in a while, like to keep you on track, it's like, oh, I owe you $1,000. Well, here's $50,000. And it's like, I'm your friend.
Yeah, I do this because of respect and love. I have in my chest for you. And everyone goes along with it. There's no like, hey, I'm calling this bullshit. No. Because you have to, because that's how the business works.
Yeah. So anyway, we have Act 1, and I wrote, of course, the first thing I wrote was Dino De Laurentiis, so it's, you just gotta note that. It's like gray titles, red writing, and then there's like a lion in there somewhere. That's usually the Dino De Laurentiis thing.
Yep.
And
then
we have
Ennio Morricone soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
That's part of the movie, really.
Which I think, though, if I remember correctly, the way he worked is that he would get contracted to do music, and then he would just go off and write the music and turn it in.
Yeah.
And then you got to shoot your movie to the music.
Yeah, he's not like looking at the dailies and stuff. It's like, yeah, here, let's make this work. Well, we kind of got to shoot. It's like, no, I'm writing for the next movie. That's how he did it on The Thing too. That's why The Thing soundtrack doesn't. They have the Morricone. You can listen to it, but it was like not in the movie a whole lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different way to work.
So. Like, that's weird. I'm not. dun, dun, dun. Yeah, this works. Dun, 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 dun. See, I don't have some weird Italian like, this is what I thought the movie would be.
We opened like on the green hillside. This movie was shot in Italy, so so I don't know what the terrain of Italy is supposed to be, but it looks pretty amazing here.
It's hilly and cool.
Yeah. We got a tie
there a lot as Americans, mainly in the Second World War. It's why pizza came to America. But then you find out that pizza in America that's an American thing. It's not like that anywhere else.
We get a title crawl. We get her name was Red Sonja. She lived in a savage world in an age of violence, a fierce warrior with flaming red hair. In the Hyborian kingdom, her quest for justice and vengeance became a legend. This is how the legend began.
Which is what everyone should want on their tombstone.
Then we cut to a burning and collapsing house, and there's a woman's body that lays on the ground at night. And then a spirit calls out to her, Sonja, played by Bridget Nielsen. Which this is kind of her big thing, and she was like, what's the Dragov, or what's his name in Rocky 4? It's his opponent's wife in Rocky 4.
Oh yeah, Ludmilla Drago. Yeah,
Drago. Yeah, she's Drago's wife there. And then she had a weird thing like later on in like the aughts or whatever, where she had a 1-year relationship with Flavor Flav, and it's like the most interesting, weirdest relationship you've ever seen.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, wasn't that with the Flavor of Love, the whole reality TV show?
Yeah,
on that.
Well, no, I think that was a separate thing. So he had Flavor of Love, where he was like looking for a girlfriend, and then they ended up together, so it became a different show called like Strange Love or something like that.
Oh, okay. I mean, I've never watched any of it.
Yeah, seen clips of it. Well, it's because he's like kind of this short, energetic black guy with all these like accoutrements, and she's like this 6 foot tall woman, Danish woman, who still kind of has an accent.
Oh yeah, I love the people with like the 40-year later accents. or in the case of what's his name? Oh, Kissinger. Big 90-year accent. Who has a brother who came from the same place and immigrated to America at the same time and talks like me and you. Bill Kissinger is like, I don't know what's wrong with my brother. I don't know why he talks like that.
Sometimes you got to lay into a character, I guess. This is how people know me. I'm going to keep it going.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was cool.
I mean, same thing with Arnold, where like, he could try to kind of like to be more American, I guess, with his accent, but it's like, nah, this is my style. This is how I make money. It's recognizable. So,
yeah. I mean, I think he's just completely an American citizen now, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, he served as a governor here. So,
yeah. So he doesn't even have any. I mean, with Arnold, that's always his thing.
Yeah.
And it was my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies was like, my name is Bill Fox I'm from Colorado or something. It's like, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's what
part of Colorado where they only speak German.
Yeah, they did that with Jean-Claude Van Damme as well, where he's like, they always said to like, he grew up in New Orleans and had an eccentric family.
It screwed up his speech patterns. His family was so eccentric. Who's the other one? Oh, Jason Statham. He did this stint of movies where he was like this American action star. And he like would wear a cowboy hat, and he's like, "I'm a criminal from Dallas," but it was in a Cockney accent because Jason Statham looks cool and he can fight. He's an action star. He's not an actor like that, where he can do like multiple accents. So they just throw a cowboy hat on him, and it's like, "Yeah, I'm from Dallas."
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of a guy you just hire him to be himself. He's kind of like
Yeah.
a modern day Bruce Willis. You don't get him to like disappear into the role. You get him because he's cool for who he is.
No, I was like, we're doing King Lear with all the serious actors. Jason Statham's being King Lear. But we're gonna shoot it straight, like everyone's serious as a heart attack. But you be you, Jason. I think that'd be cool. People would appreciate the irony of it, and they give me millions of dollars to do it.
We get flashbacks of Sonja's life being destroyed by Queen Gedrin.
Yes.
Because she was disobeying the queen's wishes to, like, I don't know, be her plaything or something. I don't know.
Yeah, be her lover or something.
And then the ghost gives Sonja like superpowers or something.
Yeah.
Like this sentence I wrote to explain this like all happens in probably like 20 seconds, and this is your quick ramp up to who this character is and what's going on.
Yeah. We're building, people, building. Hot. Okay, perfect.
I mean, this movie's only like an hour and a half long, which is kind of standard for 80s movies. So, you got to run through this stuff, but it seems sort of like, I mean, how much stuff they shot with Arnold Schwarzenegger and then like put in this movie. You imagine like how much of this movie did they shoot and how much of this movie did they cut? Because it seems like it's a lot.
Yeah. I'd like to see like the long, director's edition or some producer's edition.
Yeah.
Because I get the vibe there's like easily 2.5 hours of material here.
Yeah. You
Like
just got to cut together what works.
Yeah.
Then we cut to Calidor, who's played by Arnold, and then this is the not Conan.
Yeah.
Although some people have said like the way they work it in like sort of the fan fiction of it is like, oh, this is Conan, but he's in a different land here, so he goes by a different name.
It's not even the same, because Conan had a sense of humor and arrogance. That was part of the fun of Conan, was he was funny and arrogant. Like, it's like, of course I'm the best swordsman in the land, but this guy was more straight. Like,
I don't know. It's like when he's in his red getup, he's just pretty like he's kind of boring and straight laced. But like in the end of the movie, where he's like in his kind of like his black getup, then he's fun. Then he's just playing Conan. Then
he's
which again makes me think like, oh, these are like way different production cycles that these things were produced out of. So
yeah. Now don't forget too that Red Sonja like grabbed the queen's like spiked scepter and smacked her in the face with it.
Oh, I thought she's like scratched her face. I can't remember, but yeah,
no,
she
it's
just scratched her
like
face.
A deep scar. Yeah, it was like a permanent scar. Because Queen Gedrin doesn't always have the weird like face thing.
Yeah.
For most of the movie she does, which was actually kind of cool.
Yeah, that's weird. It's like, what's that for? It's like, all right. So you think, oh, it's just an eccentric headdress or whatever. So, so Calidor like rides through on a horse through all the hills and stuff, and here we got the Ennio Morricone music. How do you say it? Morricone?
I say it Morricone. Could be wrong.
Okay.
Probably, yeah.
Well, I don't know. For some reason, I used to say it was like Enrico Morricone, but like his name's like Ennio Morricone, and I'm like, oh, I guess I've been saying it wrong the whole time, or combining it in my head. I don't know. We cut to there's a green orb surrounded by people with swords and like a concrete pyramid. You could say like some of the production looks cheap, but it's very detailed, so it looks cool even if it looks like it's just a bunch of cardboard spray painted to look like rocks. It looks cool though.
There's a lot of foam rubber in this movie, but you almost like, oh, I saw it move that way, but then you ignore it.
Yeah. But it has detail, so it's like, oh, okay, it's not just a bland background or whatever.
Yeah.
We got some ladies in white that are performing like some ceremony to destroy the talisman. Then we have some troops in black surround the place. We have Eichel, played by Ronald Lacey, who is the evil... Well, they're all evil Nazis, but he's like the weird, nerdy evil Nazi in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, isn't his job just to die horribly in pictures throughout?
Yeah. Yeah, he dies horribly in Raiders, and he dies horribly here. That's kind of his thing. We also saw him in Blood and what's it called? The Verhoeven movie. I can't remember what it's called. Flesh and Blood. That's right.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so he was one of these guys.
Which he probably died horribly in that one, but I can't remember.
Raban was in this, not immediately, but yeah. I always remember that guy from Dune and Midnight Express.
Eichel throws a throwing star at a lady performing the ceremony to destroy the talisman, and then the troops in black charge in. The troops are like driven back at first by the ladies, but then they like repel in and get surrounded, and they're all killed. The talisman gets stolen. We have Queen Gedrin, played by Sandal Bergman, who she's really cool. I really like her.
Great job.
She's fun in this role as like the evil, queen or whatever. But she was also like cool in Conan, where she played Valeria.
Yeah.
And then like I looked her up, and like not really much after that. She kind of just did B movies after this, and not a whole lot. So I don't know what happened to her, but she was really cool. She did some weird movie called She, where it's like this weird post-apocalyptic.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It's another one. Well, actually, I think it might have been shot in Israel, but it felt like a spaghetti western, and it's supposed to be like a post-nuclear apocalypse. So that gives them reason to like, they basically shoot it like it's like medieval times with medieval stuff too, but then all of a sudden like there'll just be modern like junk around attached to everything. Like there's like guys in like football gear with like swastikas painted on. It's almost incomprehensible because it's like, oh, did I miss something here? It's like, no, the edit's just super stupid.
Yeah. Did I like fast forward? It's like, no.
But it is visually interesting. It's on YouTube if you want to look it up. It's not streaming anywhere else, but someone just threw it on YouTube. So if you want to check that out. But yeah, I really liked her. So it was kind of weird to see that she really wasn't in a whole lot. She was in Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Wow, who can forget that? Favorite character, Sam Hell.
I don't know if she like pissed somebody off, or if it's just the fact that she was like a woman who was 6 feet tall, and probably like the action heroes she'd be alongside wouldn't like that she's taller than them. Because apparently, like I saw an interview she did, and she apparently in Conan she had to do all her own stunts because they didn't have a stunt woman who was 6 feet tall.
Yeah, what was it, Sigourney Weaver? Like when she was trying to get her, like, I forget, she went to like those Ivy League schools for acting, and the guy, because she's like 6 feet something or close to it, and the guy told her, it's like, just quit acting. You're too tall. Nobody likes a woman that tall as an actress. It's unbelievable. You can only play like sexless weird characters. And then they fired him like next year. She's like, yeah, I guess I stayed in acting because if you're a woman over 6 feet tall at a certain time, it's like, yep, there's nothing we can do with you. Being over 6 feet tall, like, to me, like around here, like that's normal. Like there's a lot I work with a lot of women that are taller than me, and I'm over 6 feet. I work with women that are just clearly like half a head taller than me. That doesn't seem too strange, but I guess in certain places, like, that's not that normal. I mean, it's normal here, but it's also a lot of, like, I worked with a girl whose like dad was a basketball player.
Yeah.
So like he was a giant man, and his whoever her mother was also some kind of athlete. And like, yeah, she could manhandle the transmission parts right in, and like, gosh, she's just this. She was a woman, and there was nothing wrong with her, but she was just a very tall, large, powerful woman. Her dad was a professional athlete. Now, some guys, of course, were like, wow, that's weird. But to me, it was like, let's Karen. She works Flatline or whatever. Okay.
Well, also I thought it was weird because she's in a lot of these B movies that are like shot in Italy, and she has like kind of dark hair. It's like, oh, she's just some like kind of like weird Italian actress they found and they dub her over. Like, no, she's from Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas. Where are you from, honey? The almost geographical center of the United States. Wow.
So Queen Gedrin rides in in the temple and like on her horse, and then she has one of her the troops are starting to take the green orb, and then she makes one guy touch it, and then he just disappears. He kind of skeletonizes for a bit, not really, but it's like kind of too quick to even like make it that. I mean, this is only a PG-13 movie, even though it's like pretty violent for a PG-13 movie. It was an early PG-13 movie.
Oh, okay.
But then she makes one of her. I guess it's like, I don't know. Is this supposed to be like her double or something?
I don't know. This girl appears as like the high priestess in the credits.
Huh, okay.
But I think it's just her lover.
Oh, okay.
What she wanted Red Sonja to be. But.
Yeah. That's what I assume.
Yeah.
She's just kind of there. It's like, oh, it's a woman. So she has her touch the orb, and then nothing happens to her. So that's like the whole thing. That's why these women were guarding this orb, because only they can touch it. And maybe it's explained later on. But essentially, this is like the orb that created the Earth or whatever. And if it gets too much light, it'll destroy the Earth or something like that. But I think that's explained later on. We also got some prisoners that are just tossed into a hole, which is also and it just starts closing, and like, oh, did they die from the fall? It's like, no, they're hurt from the fall, and now they're screaming, and the thing's closing. You're like, are they getting squished, or they just like don't want to be locked down in the hole? It's kind of frightening for what it is, so that works pretty well.
Yeah, it was horrible. It's like, these are bad people. The people that took the orb are bad.
But then one lady escapes. Then we cut to Caldor spots the lady running away. It's Varna, Sonja's sister, but this is just kind of just thrown in there. It's like, there's no way you're gonna know this, because it's like she's supposed to be getting revenge for like her sister here being killed, but they already showed up front like the queen already killed her whole family and burned down her house and everything. It's like, so Sherry has enough motivation, so this is just a little sugar on top for the vengeance angle. So
yeah, it couldn't be a friend or something. Or I know who these ladies are. I was going to help them, or it had to be like, no, this is. I went to learn. I went to Kill Bill Academy, and my sister was guarding the orb. Sorry, I'm getting ahead. But
Varna's being chased by Gedrin's goons. She slides down a rope, and then she gets hit with an arrow on the way down, and Caldor gets her and like pulls the arrow out of her, and then he kills a bunch of the goons. Then we cut to there's a guy sword fighting, and then like the person he's sword fighting is revealed after he's defeated, and it's a woman. It's Red Sonja. So here she's like declared like a sword master by some king or whatever.
It's Bill from Kill Bill. I mean, it's not, but in my mind, it's like, not Bill. It was who was the guy? Who was the master that taught him all how to fight and kill like that?
Oh, the guy was the guy who make the swords?
No, this was the guy that pulled the one lady's eye out because she was sarcastic to him.
Okay.
Hey, or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's not important. If I have to explain the joke that much, it's like, it's very funny.
Sorry, there's like a tornado alarm going off here and other things. So I'm just kind of slightly distracted.
Hey, stay focused. Don't worry about the imminent demise of the podcast.
We gotta get the podcast out to all the fans. And then there's like this part where like the guy she was fighting was like gonna hug her or something, and then she kind of recoils, and she's like, she doesn't want a guy touching her.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, because like the scene, like she doesn't. They also like imply. Well, they show some thrusting, so it's like she was also like raped by the queen's like guards or whatever. So that's that stuff there.
Yeah.
Again, that's in a 3-second shot of this movie, but you have to. But that's a thing. Although it doesn't really seem to necessarily align here, where it's like, well, how fast did she become a sword master? It's like, That's also weird that they grant her, it's like, you're a sword master now, and then every fight after she has problems fighting with people. It's like,
Yeah.
shouldn't you be easily defeating everyone you fight? You seem to be having a problem with everyone you fight. But
Oh, you're fighting barbarians,
yeah.
burly men.
She's gifted a sword of her choosing. She kind of hears a voice call out to her, so she grabs a sword that calls out to her, which, I don't know, it's kind of a cool looking sword with the eccentric pattern on it or whatever. So,
Yeah.
Also, yeah, there's weird things that remind me. There's a lot of things that remind me of the like Indiana Jones series here. So like this kind of remind me of the Grail sequence from Indiana Jones. Like, choose wisely.
Choose the plainest one. He was a carpenter in Israel. You know how much money they made at that time?
Caldor comes in looking for Red Sonja. He just says, "Your sister is dying. I'll take you to." The first part of this, like, all his dialogue is super flat, and then he kind of becomes a character like later on. So that's what it makes me think, like they shot like this movie in 2 different production cycles.
Yeah.
Like they shot one movie, decided like, we need to do some reshoots. It's like, what if we just reshot the whole movie? But I didn't see that in the trivia. That's just what this feels like. feels a lot of editing being done here.
Yeah, it does seem like I said, it seems like it was chopped up.
Yeah. Sonja has a red horse, because why not? It's called Red Sonja. She's gonna have red everything.
Makes sense.
Also, Calidor is in red too, so that's kind of interesting. He's not later on when the whole group's together, because actually the whole group is dressed in red, except for Calidor when he joins later on. I thought that was kind of actually an interesting thing where it's like, oh yeah, you have your team, so like all the guys in red are the good guys, and all the guys in black are the bad guys. But doesn't necessarily work out that way. But I thought like that was an interesting, kind of idea to color coordinate your teams here.
Well, interesting production note. Now the Queen Gedra's guards that carried the orb, they had some cool armor, and they were the only guys that had that.
Oh,
because they had the skeletons the skulls on top of the armor, like they were emblazoned in the armor.
Oh, okay.
I thought, these guys like the Praetorian Guard, are they going to be like tough people to fight later on? But no, they just
So they get to Varna, and Varna tells Sonja that the talisman's been stolen. Again, this feels like the first. Not only does it feel like the first time she knows about the talisman, this also seems like the first time she's ever met her sister.
Yeah. There's a lot going on here. That's
why she has to say Varna like 40 times. Like, Varna, get your rest. Wait, who are you? Here she explains that the talisman, its power grows in the light, and in 13 days the talismans will destroy the world. So yeah, there's your ticking time clock.
Yeah.
And then Varna dies before she gives any clues, so she doesn't even know that like Queen Gedrin took it and stuff like that. Even though the audience knows that right away. So it's like, hey, what if the thing you're seeking vengeance on is also the thing you need to destroy? They're in the same place. How convenient.
It's called symmetry.
Then we have a Viking funeral for Varna. So
those are always cool.
So it's in Act 1. We have Act 2. There's a storm over a hoblock, which clues Sonja that the talisman's being used over there, so she's going in that direction. Sonja finds a boy prince, played by Ernie Reyes Jr., who you may remember is like the pizza delivery guy in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze.
Yep.
He's also in Surf Ninjas. Another famous Filipino as we had Lou Diamond Phillips on one of our previous episodes.
Oh, yeah, the first power, yeah.
But yeah, Ernie Reyes Jr.'s dad, also Ernie Reyes Sr., is also very famous because he did a lot of like the I'm not sure why, I forget, maybe the directing or did a lot of stunts for like a lot of the Hong Kong action films of the era. For a lot of stuff they working with like Jackie Chan and stuff like that. So,
Oh, okay.
so it's a very famous martial arts family. um, and one of the this is Prince Tarn, I believe, and one of his subjects by Paul L. Smith that he berates, which he said he was the. Is he basically? Is he like the Batista role in the new Dune? Is that who this guy plays in the old Dune? Okay.
This was Sting's counterpart. It was Raban, who never really said much.
He just kind of looks,
laughed a lot and did cruel things.
Yeah. So here is the opposite.
Yeah.
He's Falcon. Or, I want to say Falcone because they put a K in it, but it's just Falcon. But
yeah.
And so him and the boy are the only thing that's left of Hoblock. Apparently the queen came through, destroyed everything, and then the army fled, and then there's just the kid who's trying to like still be the leader. Which I don't. So it must have been he must have been the leader the whole time, because it wasn't like his family died like at this thing, and it's like, oh yeah, mom and dad are dead. There's never lamenting their loss or anything. So they must have died way earlier before this, and this kingdom was ready to fall apart or anything really.
Well, they said that like she destroyed half the city to make him surrender, and then and he refused, so she destroyed the other half.
Yeah. Which I was actually pleasantly surprised about these characters, because I thought what I remember of like the Falcon is like he's got a lot of like kind of like Mongolian influences stuff on him. It was like, oh, white guy doing Mongolian stuff, this probably won't age well. But being that this is a different world completely, doesn't really matter. And the whole time he's subjected to like like this little Asian kid. So really, there's nothing wrong here.
Yeah, no, it all works out.
But yeah, so yeah, he kind of has to like take care of the Falcon has to take care of the boy, but also has to do everything he says. But so it's like this weird father figure who has to transition between like tricking the child to doing the right things, rather because he has to listen to everything he says essentially, but taking care of him as if he was the father or whatever. Or a berated uncle. It's like, all right, come on. I'm not going to hit you, but that's what everybody wants to do. Sonja learns that Queen Gedrin. Oh yeah, well they're like weirdly balanced on this like broken statue's hand, and like the kid's like over a pit, and then Falcon's hanging on the other thing, like being its counterbalance to keep it from falling, and then Sonja just kind of like twisted on a rock so the kid can get off, and he just kind of like leaves. It's like, all right, Falcon, stop being stupid, like fall to your death or whatever. And Sonja helps him out, so they get them out of there. Yeah, so Queen Gedrin killed this Hoblock here.
Hoblock, yeah.
Then she leaves, and we see Calidor following Sonja without her permission. Because he said like, I need to come with you, like the danger's with you, and I'm like, I thrive in danger, and she's like, nah. So Calidor follows her anyway. He's just because like this is gonna be interesting, but he follows like a bit behind. She goes to Breitag, like I don't know, they say these things like we're supposed to know, but it's just suddenly introduced. This is played by Pat Roach, who is like the boxing Nazi who gets killed by the plane propeller and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep.
So she challenges him.
Boxer and wrestler in real life.
She challenges him to a sword fight, and then she kills Breitag, and then takes his comically large key.
Well, first she was willing to just pay him for passage.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Like,
yeah, how much? And he was like, well, I want special romance, or I don't know, he said something, some unsubtle innuendo about, no, I want to have, basically you're gonna pay for your supper. You're gonna sin for your supper.
But also like he's like, all right, we're gonna sword fight, and then she makes him like promise that his minions won't attack her like when they're done after she's killed him. He's like, yeah, sure. So she kills him, and then they try to attack her anyways, but Calidor shows up, and they fight their way out of there. Apparently, the troops were loyal to this asshole. I don't know why, but they were.
Yeah, this guy was a complete bastard to everyone.
Yeah, because they're all
die,
Yeah, they're all in armor, like holding weapons, standing guard. And he's just laying on a bed. It seems like the easiest way to leave this guy and not continue, unless he was paying him really well. So, Caldor like stays behind to fight the army, which Sonja kind of like is delighted by. It's like, hey, I guess he's kind of a good guy. But then she just takes off. It's like, all right, anyways, my journey.
Thank you. The guy's like surrounded by him, which he handily defeats. But
yeah. Then we cut to morning, and there's some like road thieves that are like drawing and quartering Prince Tarn.
Yeah. Then kind of a scary scene to film. It's like,
yeah,
drawing and quartering of a child.
Then Falcon shows up and shows off his throwing knives and his bone club, which is a cool weapon.
Yeah, it's actually a good idea. What are you using there? Is it the femur of an ogre or something? I don't know what it is. But.
Which I'm pretty sure that's been persistent through like lots of things, but that's something that's always in like the From Software, like a lot of their like Souls series. Like there's always like, you know, a weapon is just a bone of a giant dragon or something like that. I don't know if this started here or it's been in other fiction, but it's like in my mind this is where it originated. So
yeah. What was I doing?
So yeah, I thought he throws off his throwing knives and the bone club, and then Prince Tarn does some martial arts. So, you know, because he's from this martial arts family, so he does a lot of cool stuff where he's doing like spin kicks and spinning 3 times and kicking a dude in the head and stuff like that. It's like, that's pretty cool. But then, yeah, he gets to show off and being pretty cool. But then you just remember like, oh yeah, this is a kid who weighs like 50 pounds and like anybody can grab him, just throw him around.
Yeah.
But if he can get some spin kicks into your head, you know, he can win the day.
To your temple, you're in trouble. You just grab his leg and throw him. Flying through the air.
And I think, yeah, his character's like well played in this movie, because I do remember him being like annoying, and like he is purposely annoying, but he does have like a character arc where he gets less annoying.
Yeah, I enjoyed his performance throughout the movie because he was over the top,
yeah,
spoiled bad kid at first.
Yeah, well, it's also as the actor, he's doing that intentionally, so he's like doing a good job.
Yeah. But you almost have some sympathy for him even at that point, because it's like, well, yeah, his whole thing was destroyed.
Yeah, yeah. Oh. But because he comes from royalty, he has to put on these airs. He has to pretend to be royalty.
He can't cry or anything.
Yeah. Then we cut to Queen Gedren's place, and then they put on like the green orb. Oh, they put the green orb in like this cool candle room.
Yeah, the candle room was great. What a fire hazard that must have been.
Yeah, it looked cool. And I don't know, like I watched it on Amazon. I don't know like if they did any kind of restoration to it or something, but man, does like some of the stuff in this movie like looks great. And I thought it would like kind of look aged terribly, but it looks cool. Again,
the room's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Hats off to the Italian crew that built these stuffs. Like some of them are really cool.
And like pedestal of swords that hold the orb. I want pedestal of swords in my house.
They announce that enemies are approaching, so then they go to the throne room of Queen Gedren, and then she has a furry pet spider that just kind of like flaps there. It's comically, it's like, yeah, okay. You can basically
in the background is like, is she going to interact with this thing? Because I totally forgot about that. Play a part in the movie now.
Nope.
Just on a pole underground. It's kind of moving around. Like, oh, okay.
They bring up a view screen like it's Star Trek. And like I actually I don't know what the joke was supposed to be then. It actually works now. Like you were like opening your laptop and like, oh wait, I had the porn I had on. That's what the scene plays. Because like the magician
that operates it, like it's a topless woman dancing.
And he's like slightly embarrassed, like, oh, you didn't see that. And I think that's how you're supposed to read it, but like, so I don't know how it was meant back then, but it actually works better now.
Yeah, it makes more sense.
Then they switch to like Sonja's team, where it's Sonja, Tarn, and Falcon. Gedrin recognizes Sonja. Sonja and the squad come upon like a lava river. Here we get a lot of like, you know, it's obviously like some matte paintings and stuff, but it's like really well done matte paintings. Like it looks cool. So they need to like find a bridge, and there's a bridge that's just made of like dragon bones or something that's across the way.
Yeah.
And it's not made of it. A dragon just died and became a bridge.
Yeah, it just like died over this valley. As the flesh rotted away, it's like, oh, you can walk on this.
Which there is a weird scene where like they kind of like, you know, and again like the wide shot is the dragon's just a matte painting, you know, which looks fine, but like the idea of it's like better than like necessarily the execution. But then there's a scene where like she just walks back and forth a couple times, like, oh, it's good, and then that's all the danger they deal with. Yeah, yeah, it seems like, yeah, I don't know. I guess somebody in the editing room really liked it, so they kept it. So we cut to them camping, so it's like night again. This is where a lot of just like it's night and day all of a sudden, but you know, you gotta get to that 13-day time limit, so you know, you're just running through the days here. Sonja beats up Tarn, but like kind of teaches him some things about fighting. There's also just like weird sexual innuendos here and stuff. Because she's like helping him hold the sword, and it's like, is this supposed to be his penis? Because that's what they're suggesting here.
Yeah, grip it loosely so you can't be disarmed. And he's like this, and he puts his hand back on the sword. Like, am I doing it right now? And it's like,
okay. But
he's got a big shit-eating grin on his face. So it's like,
well, also she beats him up here a little bit, but like not too hard. She's not killing him, but she's just kind of like putting him in his place, because he's also he's trying to hit her. So that's, you know.
Well, she tells him, it's like, yeah, go ahead, hit me. He tries his kicking thing, and of course she's a little kid. She just pushes him out of the way, hands on his back, and she's like, no, use your sword. So he does like a backflip and comes at her with the sword, and he just quickly disarms him and throws him to the ground. It's like, see, you're holding it wrong.
Well, she also explained that there's a difference between like a dueling and fighting, and like they're two different things. Like fighting is dirty and whatever you need to win. Dueling is kind of like fanciful and there's rules.
Yeah. There's no flourishes in fighting.
But this earns the respect of Tarn, so he kind of like thinks she's cool now. So we cut back to the view screen.
Oh, and then don't forget that like Falcon suddenly appears from behind the rock. Like, he was watching the whole time. If it got out of hand, he was going to spring into action, but he was apparently fine with it. So.
Well, yeah. As long as the prince didn't actually get hurt, he was okay with it, because he's like, oh man, I wish I could push this kid around.
Yeah, I want to do that shit.
We cut back to the view screen, and Gedrin wants she wants to kill the Sonja party, but leave Sonja still alive. Again, no reason why. It's apparently she just wants a new girlfriend, slave, princess thing, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, she's a woman of huge appetites.
Sonja and squad make their way through a flooding quarry, and Falcon tries to like steal a pearl off the wall, and then a mechanical water beast like leaps out to attack them as the flood waters rise. Here's Caldor shows up again, and here he's not in his red attire. It's like black attire, which I didn't know if that meant like, oh, did they get soaked in the rain or something like that? Like, no, he's just in this kind of like brown black attire for the rest of the movie. It's, you know, I mean, he could always, I mean, you can always change clothes, but this is one of the things where I thought like, oh, this felt like a different production cycle thing.
Yeah.
because now his character's kind of fun. So he leaps at the beast, but like his attacks don't do anything because it's literally a mechanical beast. But then Sonja pops up and like pries the eyeballs out of the beast, and now it's like, and it's just like pearls again, which matches up with the pearls that was on the wall. So now the beast is apparently blind, so it's just flailing about, and they just leave.
Yeah.
So then we cut to camp, and Sonja is tending to Caldor's wounds. Apparently Caldor is like the High Lord, which I don't know if that means like he's the king of the land or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, he was the High Lord that was supposed to be present at the destruction of the orb.
Yeah.
I remember he couldn't make it because he rode up and the bridge was destroyed.
Yeah.
They had to ride all the way around the world or something to get the bridge is down.
Well, that's where he saw Varna escaping on the rope.
Yeah.
The fast rope thing. Caldor kisses Sonja, but she rebukes him, telling that only the man that may have her, like, must beat her in a fair fight first. So Caldor challenges her to a sword fight. Tarn wakes up and like jumps on Caldor and starts hitting him, but then Caldor just like comically like picks him up with one arm and sets him down. So you got Arnold doing that, so yeah, of course he can pick up like a 50-pound child like it's nothing.
Yeah.
The fight continues until both are like winded by the fighting, and then it continues some more, and now they're just flailing more desperately. But eventually they just kind of like tire and fall down in a tree, and it's essentially a draw. So, so have that being the end effect. So.
Nobody wins in the first great Nookie battle.
We have Act 3. We cut to Sonja and the gang watch like the aftermath of like Gedred's army destroying another kingdom. We're not really shown. You're just told that's what happened. Then they approach a cliff to climb it. Apparently it's like the entrance to Gedren's castle. They leave Tarn behind, but like kind of trick him into it. It's like, because they know like climbing's going to be more dangerous. So it's like, somebody needs to guard the door. It's like, I don't want to do that. It's too dangerous. And so they make Tarn like, I'll do it. But really, they're just trying to leave him behind in the safest place. So.
They don't want him to fall or get hurt. Meanwhile, like a 380-pound man is going to scale the side of that. Yeah. Maybe people were tougher back in the Hyborian age.
We cut to Gedren's kingdom is like shaking from earthquakes because the talisman's like getting too much energy, and Icall warns her that the talisman's too powerful and they need to bury it in the dark, but Gedren's too greedy. She wants all the power. Although we never really see her like control it or use it. It just kind of like it's just there and things are happening.
These are the parts of the movie I'm thinking were like cut.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I don't know how you use it. Like you put your hands on it and say, send a thunderstorm to Helgolik or whatever. I don't know, what they would do, but it seems like it would be more visualized.
Yeah. Falcon falls, like they're climbing. He like falls in through like a hole, and then he like lands on a table. Like they're already fighting soldiers. And he falls through like a hole and like lands on like a lunch table that the soldiers were at, and then this kind of becomes like Falcon and Caldor like having like kind of sort of a comical fight with the guards at the lunch table. So there's a lot of like almost kind of like Jackie Chan stuff going on, where like people are being launched like on seesaws and stuff in the broken table and stuff like that, and some people are getting their heads and arms chopped off. So.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Three Stooges, like
yeah.
And when they do the eye poke thing, like they're actually poking their eye.
Icall is sneaking away because now he's had enough with the queen. It's like he knows like everything's gonna fall apart.
So yeah, the world's gonna end. Quick, give me a bag of gold. Stave that off.
But Tarn is waiting by the door when he opens it, and so he confronts Icall, and Icall, like they fight a bit. Like Tarn gets him, like his spin kicks in, but then like when Icall just grabs him, he can just like toss him away like he's nothing. Then he starts running away, and then like Tarn like throws a sword and it hits like the hidden switch area, and like Eichel like trips and falls in the doorway, and he's just like screaming as he dies, like.
Yeah, it goes on for like 30 seconds. How long?
And even like Tarn is like kind of like ashamed, like oh no, that's a terrible way to die. I'm kind of sorry I did that.
Yeah, that kind of sucks. Good thing I cut that bag of gold open. Now I can go get all those coins.
Tarn makes his way to the throne room, and he gets captured by Gedrin. But then just Sonja just shows up. This is video they just have things just start happening. So
yeah, this movie starts to really punch the gas here very quickly.
All right, we're running out of time and budget. Let's get this. Let's get
12 minutes, people. Let's get filming.
So now it's a showdown between Gedrin and Sonja. Sonja declares her vengeance for the death of her whole family and her sister, and Gedrin reveals like her scratched face scar that Sonja gave her. Like, that's supposed to be a big thing. It's like, why are you doing this? She's like, this. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, I guess that's a reason.
But Gedrin could, like, without really any kind of background to her, she can somehow hold her own against Sonja.
Yeah, she seems to be also a good fight. Well, they're roughly equally matched in size and strength.
Yeah.
Like it's two Amazon women just wailing on each other with swords.
But then the magician kind of comes in and he starts making her teleport about the throne room. This is just like jump cuts and how they do it, so it's not really that like cool an effect. It just happens.
Yeah, it's not like a brisance of light or something. Transports like in Star Trek. No, it's just like 1 minute she's in the frame, the next minute she's out of frame. It's like, whoop. Then we're in somewhere else in the throne. But for these movies and this time, it's fun.
Yeah, she's kind of, she gets a breather, and then it's almost like a wrestling match. It's like whenever the heel goes to the outside, he's to get a rest and to get away from the good guy. And, it's like, oh, they're a coward. It's like, yeah, but they're also like getting rest and time away from it, so they can sneak back and get some cheap shots on the good guy. So,
now, something I learned from like watching people fight in real sword fights with real swords, but they're not killing each other, but they're dressed in full armor and stuff. Well, you get gassed in a hurry.
Oh yeah.
Like 30 seconds. It's like, okay, is anyone dead yet? Because I'm tired. Because if these people weren't swinging aluminum swords, they would be like, this fight would have lasted 2 minutes. They'd be like, okay, hold on.
Yeah, it'd be like 3 swings.
Jeez, we're swinging metal baseball bats around here.
And if you stop a sword with another sword, that's going to feel so bad on you.
Oh, yeah. Hey, does this have like the vibrating tong in the handle so it doesn't like, shatter my wrist?
The magician also starts like scratching some blood in a pan and starts giving Sonja some wounds, and then Sonja finally notices what's going on. Then she just runs over and cuts his head off as he like cowers.
Yeah, he doesn't like move away or throw a lightning bolt. He just like stands there and waits to be decapitated. Run. Do magic stuff. But again. It would have been more impressive if Sonja had like stomped on a sharp piece of metal on the floor and thrown it at him, and it was sticking out of his chest. It's like, okay, I believe he wouldn't get out of the way of that because he wouldn't know it was coming. But just to stand there, it's kind of silly.
What they should have done is they should have had like the magician, every time he teleports, it switches places with Gedrin, so like he would be popping up constantly. He's like, oh, don't kill me, I'm just an innocent person, and then eventually she just kills him.
Yeah. Yeah, that could work too.
So Gedrin runs off, and then Gedrin and Sonja fight in the candle room again. It looks really cool.
There's a really cool fight scene too in that candle room. Because like with all the candles and the filming and the weird latex costumes they have on, like fire is an omnipresent danger.
Sonja's crew shows up and they try to help, but they're like stuck behind a grate that's like impossible to lift. So they're like,
Except
Falcon.
The lever that makes it go up and down is easily reachable at all times. But you got to He-Man this. It's like, turn the lever in there, get a stick and like pop the lever up. I mean, don't put your arm in there because it get ripped off when it goes up. But or let the little kid get under there as we He-Man this up and like, okay, turn the lever.
Yeah.
No, never.
No,
happens.
they lift it up and he gets through, but he doesn't hit any lever.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tarn gets in the room, but then it's starting to like fall apart and split open. And again, this reminds me of Last Crusade, but this predates that. But again, it reminds me of it. And so like the room's splitting open, so Sonja has to help Tarn. But then Sonja gets back to fighting Gedrin, and then Gedrin's sword just breaks in half, and then she just stabs her in the chest and throws her in the lava river, which is also reminiscent of Alien 3. Yeah. And then Sonja tosses the talisman in the lava, which apparently that will kill it, I guess. So,
yeah.
I'm always unclear.
Things, either deny it light or throw it into Mount Doom. Those are the things.
Yeah, I'm always like questionable about things that are like all powerful. And it's like, wait, how can they actually be destroyed? It's like that doesn't seem like it's enough. You need like the antimatter version of it too. But it's magic and whatever. It's okay. So
yeah, that's the thing. Magic is like there's no rules of science behind magic. Because like me and Grayson's science teacher debated when I was at a parent teacher conference. I said, because we were talking, I was like, do you know how fucked we'd be if we had to invent rules around magic? Like if there was like a physical like order of cause and effect around magic. It's like, yeah, you can conjure a squirrel, but the universe demands a price because you can't. And he's like, oh my God, that's weird. I said, yeah, that's why magic isn't real, because God didn't want to deal with that. That's what I believe. This is why Grayson gets a C in your class. Because when he comes home and talks about chemistry, I'm like, well, Jesus said. If you don't understand something, retreat to God. But yeah, I always love like the unobtainium object must be destroyed by the irresistible force, and it's like, and then we just like smash it with a hammer or something. Wow, the same result. Cool.
Yeah, I think this movie make you think of a thought also about like like what if we didn't have science? Like, if you're in a time that had no science, what would you think an earthquake was? Because that would be that would be terrifying.
I mean, I only know what an earthquake is because this is what a scientist tells me. Like, I don't see those plates grinding together. It's like, well, this could be like plates moving in the Earth's surface and all that, or it could be the hand of God. I don't know.
Or the giant turtle we live on.
What now?
It said, or the giant turtle we live on is moving.
Yes. It could be. I can't see it, so I don't know. Because of electricity and cell phones, it's the whole boring tectonic plates thing.
Sonja gets under the gate with the help from the squad. Like, again, this is like this whole time this gate is the thing that they can barely get past.
And if this was an R-rated movie, her top would have come off because it was so tight. But it wasn't. So
also, I guess the Red Sonja character, I'm not sure if it's in the comic book form, or maybe it was in the original stories by Howard. But she is the originator of the chainmail bikini, but not used in this movie.
The old chainkini. I've always wanted to see that in real life.
So the castle's being ripped apart by the earthquake, and so they must escape through like the falling debris. There's kind of this moment where Tarn like kind of sacrifices himself to get the door open, and then he's like stuck behind something, but the gang get him out, so they all escape together.
But he finally was like, hey, go on without me, save yourself, like the first time he was ever selfless.
Yeah, which is a great moment for his character. It's like, oh, he's learning. Yeah.
Now he's going to get to claim Sonja as his bride. Plan all along.
Yeah, so they escape and they're able to watch the castle is like basically destroyed by a volcano as the volcano grows up in its place, which is pretty neat. So
yeah, it's kind of a cool concept.
So yeah, everything's fine now, and Sonja and Calidor like challenge each other to a fight, but then it just like pauses for them to kiss, And then Tarn is annoyed by this, so they leave because they're about to have sex in a field.
Oh, the big guy was like, "Hey, no, stick around. This is part of your education." Whoa, this movie took a weird turn.
So that's the end of the movie. Credits. They're still like kissing, like weirdly and held in place while the horses are kind of like neighing back and forth. Like,
yeah, I thought the horses were getting ready to do it. The way they were acting, like, oh, wow, it's a weird ending. The horses just start going at it. The Italians, they like that weird stuff.
Yeah, so that was Red Sonja, which I had fun watching this movie. I thought it would be worse than I remembered, but I had fun with it as a kid, and I had fun with it here. So it's which I don't think it did well at the box office, which is probably why it ended up on WGN all the time. So
no, this was like Raspberry Awards and stuff. People hated it.
Yeah, well, yeah, like some of the trivia is like Arnold would would challenge his kids as punishment. Like, if you don't do what I say, you're gonna have to watch Red Sonja. And so apparently his kids never got into trouble. So that was like the dare. So I was like, apparently he really hated this movie. But like, I know personally why he hates this movie. I don't know if he actually hates this. Also, like, especially like, it's not his greatest performance. He's just kind of there. It's like,
yeah,
and that's also like a movie why it would end up on WGN, because if it costs less, but also it's like, hey, Arnold, like everybody loves Arnold.
Yeah, this is really one of the first movies I can recall where Arnold Schwarzenegger is a background character.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's pretty much always the leading man. So
yeah, I mean, he's never like, and he's also like, again, this wasn't Sigourney Weaver playing Red Sonja. You know, this was a lady who was a model who just looked right for the part. She did not have any training as an actress, and it was she got like,
but you know, man, much like Arnold when he did Conan, it's like, don't talk a lot, just look good. So
yeah,
do a lot of with your physical stuff. You know, your physical acting is where you'll make your way. So
yeah, because Arnold Schwarzenegger was like not a human you saw normally. Like a cartoon character come to life.
Yeah,
nobody looks like this. It's like, well, they do, but it takes like extreme amount of effort.
Takes a lot of science to make that body.
Yeah. Yeah, to have as much muscle as a gorilla and be a human being, like, that's hard. A lot of work.
So I forgot to change that. Oh well. Oh yeah. Oh man, I completely forgot about this part. So we're chucking a scene into space with the V'ger probe. What scene do you chuck into space?
Well, I would have to say, I thought about this. I had two scenes in mind, but I would have to say, like, what explains this movie the best? And it would have to be that what explains this movie and what it means the best to me is, and how the logic of how this movie works is the fight with the Queen in the throne room, because it perfectly encapsulates the lack of logic in this movie, but your willingness to just like, yeah, cool, go for it.
Yeah, it looks cool, but it's two strong women fighting each other, and the men are held back by a contraption, so they can't intervene or save the day. Like, she doesn't save herself; she saves the world. Like, she is the hero of this movie.
Yeah. But the reason I choose that scene is this movie, for all its contradictions, which are all present in that scene. Everything wrong with this movie is in that scene, but everything cool about this movie is also in that scene.
Yeah.
So if you had to say it, that's what I would say.
Okay. I completely forgot about this part, so that was the scene that popped in my head. Because,
well, the last one I like marked off and saved it. And I was like, let's play it. And I was like, oh yeah, I can't do that anymore. So this one I just thought, like, this is the scene. Mark this. Last 22 minutes last 12 minutes of the movie.
So yeah, so it'll be your song, and then the next on the playlist will be this.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of duel, back to back. Nope, that's about it. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like is this movie a metaphor for capitalism or something? Like, no, not really. It's not that kind of movie. It's fun.
I'm trying. Well, I don't know, there was some weird trivia that said this is the first, technically like the first Marvel movie.
Okay.
I don't know if like they bought the rights to Howard stuff and then they own it, and then this was the first technical. I mean, there was, because I looked it up, was like, is that true? And there was a bunch of like, they did like Captain American like Republic serials. So I guess that technically wasn't a movie. It was like like a short film and stuff like that. But that didn't really mean anything. There's a lot of
you're talking about prehistoric stuff. It's like modern Marvel movies started in like the 2000s. Like that's everything else just prehistory.
I mean, but you do have like you have like that 89 Dolph Lundgren like Punisher. I think it was 89. Which is weird and interesting and not good, but at least interesting. I think they had to do a lot of stuff because like they had to shoot a lot of like weird lighting because like blood was a big no-no at the time where like it would immediately get you an R rating. So they did a lot of like neat stuff. It's like, well, what if we just colored it blue and the blood all looked black? It's like, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
And there was like that, there was like the 1990 Captain American movie that they made and weird stuff like that. There was like a TV movie where it's like Nick Fury and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which had David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury. It was like a sci-fi movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of, that Marvel, that Marvel stuff got around, but it wasn't really till like 2000 when the X-Men movie came out and made like, $200 million. And then like, the 2 years later, you had Spider-Man came out, make like $1 billion. And that's really what really kicked off the whole, like superhero phase. But then like, then when Marvel started doing their stuff with Iron Man, where it's like, all right, we're going to collect our stuff together. That's when it was like really cool, which people are kind of tired with it now. But I remember being that, like, I thought that was an amazing idea. It's like, oh yeah, what if one movie like interacted with another movie and it was just like a giant TV show? And now that's kind of stupid because everybody wants to do that. And it just kind of seems very, what do you call that?
Trite.
Yeah. Or really just like trying to like shamelessly cater to an audience that you don't even know you have.
Yeah.
But I remember, I think I was like cool, like in Predator 2 when you saw the alien head on the wall and it's like, oh, they're connected universes. But like back then they weren't doing that stuff. So it was just like Easter egg. But like in my mind, it's like, oh, this whole world opens up. And so, my kid me thought that stuff was amazing. Now it's a bit like, all right, this stuff should probably have like be limited. It shouldn't, like, everything shouldn't be going on forever. But comics have been going on forever, so like the story can never stop. It's much like wrestling. It's like, wrestling never stops. The story keeps going. It's like, even a sport has an off season, but not wrestling. It's like 52 weeks a year. Here's your TV show.
Well, I was talking to my son about that today. We were coming back from the tax place, and they have these billboards up everywhere for the SS or AF, or what is it called? What's the off football leagues other than the NFL?
Oh, the XFL.
XFL,
or is it like the USFL or something like
that?
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, they have all the stuff up for the USFL and all that. And he was telling me like, one of those is like a farm, like a minor league NFL, and the other one just competes. And we were talking about it, and I said, just imagine if like the NFL solution to that was like, 58 games all year long. It was like, 2-year football careers and then you're completely destroyed.
Or you'd have to have like wildly different. You'd have to like increase the team size. So you basically like, all right, this team plays this half of the season, and this team plays this half of the season.
Yeah, there's an A, B, and C like Patriots.
Which would be interesting because, like, man, what team goes to the playoffs?
Super Bowl would be intense. It's like it's been a hard season. It's been 52 regular season games plus another 35 playoff game. These teams are just almost dead.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember. Like people were like, it's like because they made like no, it's not the All Star. Yeah, I guess it's whatever. The All Star football game. They made it flag football because like nobody wants to do this stuff because they're just going to get injured for a game that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so they made it flag
games and
yeah.
stuff.
And so they made it flag football, so they're less likely to get injured. And they're like, that's stupid. It's like, all right, you go out there and play. Dumb shit.
You go out there and play tackle football with the guys that like didn't make it to the NFL, but right, just take one hit. Tell me how stupid it is. These guys run into you like a pickup truck.
But it's different because like it's different with basketball. Basketball, it's the All-Star game is great because basically nobody's playing defense, and you're like, all right, let's see how talented and fun you can be. Like, guys lighting it up from half court and like swishing it just because for fun.
Yeah, just home run derby as basketball.
Yeah,
like there's no tactical things going on here.
And then like with baseball, the All-Star game, they do kind of make, you have the home run derby is kind of a fun thing, but then they did but the game was kind of stupid because like again nobody wants to really try, but then they made that like whoever wins the game gets home field advantage at the World Series, so then they made it like more important. But
yeah.
Well, it was interesting this year. Like there's a lot of attention paid to the world. I'm not sure what they call it. Is it called like World Series baseball? They basically had like an Olympics for baseball where like all the teams got together of the different countries and played. And
Japan won.
Yeah. So that there's a lot of tension there. And that seemed like kind of fun. So
I remember that. Yeah, all the other countries that like baseball. Japan, the Dominican Republic. There's quite a few, but
yeah, I mean it's fun when it's sometimes that even though you like USA all the way, sometimes back when you had the Dream Team, it was like almost comical, like just how much they would destroy other countries. It's like
and they'd have the Olympic super team for the US. Yeah. It's like they're just the worst player is like better than the next 100 top players. It's like, okay.
But now things have caught up. So now like somebody other than America can win the thing. They discovered, like, oh yeah, there's a lot of 7 foot tall people in Germany, so they can kind of put up a fight now in the Olympic basketball games.
Yeah, it's like Slovenia. It's like all the Balkan countries and now Russia. It's real popular.
Yeah.
Because it's the indoor thing too. That's another thing. Like countries where it's really cold, it's like, just build an indoor stadium. You don't need to be outside for this, and you don't need to enclose a soccer stadium indoors, which is like really expensive.
Well, there's something like that's weird because I haven't been watching basketball for a while, though. It's like I should probably get into it because like they're basically playing video game basketball now. Where when you play video game basketball, it's like why go for 2? The 3-point is 3 points. Like you're just going to make more points with it. And now guys are just like launching it up from all over the behind the 3-point line with supreme accuracy. It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
And so like there's like no centers anymore because everybody's a shooter. Like you don't need to be 7 feet tall to be in the NBA anymore. You just need to be able to shoot a ball from half court.
I mean, it's basically they've turned it into hurling or something.
Yeah.
Like it's just yeah, I've heard people commentate about saying, "Yep, basketball's dead." It's like they've destroyed the fundamentals and they've made it. You're playing big head basketball. From the '90s. It's like that's what basketball has become.
Which I'm waiting for that to happen in like football because like they still don't do that. They haven't gotten to video game football yet. Because in video game football, you always go for it on 4th down because your chances like I can make 3 yards, but like they almost never do that in the NFL because it's like this is too much to chance.
Yeah, the wind could be blowing the wrong direction.
But like technically, like there really is no reason for you to ever like, unless you're like like on the 2 yard line, there really is no reason to punt.
Yeah.
And never kick it. Always go for two. Like, but nobody has the balls to do because they're immediately gonna get fired the moment they lose like 2 games in a row. It's like, see, the system doesn't work.
So, coach, what's your plan? Just crashing against the wall constantly. We are never gonna, never gonna stop. We're gonna have special teams for the 5 yard line. We will always never kick. We're not putting a kicker on the team.
We're gonna go so far as to never hire a kicker.
Yeah, there will be no kicker on this team. It's like, well, what about kickoffs? Like, what about it? I can find any jackass to kick at 10 feet, and we're just gonna annihilate the people.
Onside kicks all the time.
Yeah. Go ahead, touch that fucking ball. In the end zone so they can be going 60 miles an hour. Just wrecking crew football.
But no, the other weird thing is I basically hear like college basketball is like really stilted right now for some reason. Like everybody hates it. The coaches apparently suck. And they're not letting the players play. Like, no, you need to stick to the system. When you can see, like in the NBA, it's like, well, if you let me do what I want, I'll score you 35 points a game.
Yeah.
And so I guess like people aren't really getting drafted out of college that much anymore. They're going to like these European leagues and like these development leagues to get the players now, which like I didn't realize that was happening. So. That's kind of
because the people I was telling you about that were whining about how it's like there's no fundamentals, those were all college basketball coaches.
Yeah, nobody wants to play for them because they suck.
Yeah, well, they want to punch each other, punch the refs. They want to fight. They want to get multiple game suspensions. They want to have their biggest players just quit right in the middle. The guys at U of M on their basketball, which was a championship, like U of M was on a roll. They all entered the transfer portal today. They're done. Bye. We're done. Not just because they go into that doesn't mean they're going to leave, but I think at U of M that means they're going to leave because nobody likes their. Well, their coach was the one who punched the other coach.
Yeah,
same guy. Like, I lost this game. You know what I'm doing? The old haymaker. Really, as a grown man, you're doing this? All right, cool. At least Bobby Knight just threw chairs. Like, you're just punching the other.
Well, he choked a player too. So.
Well, yeah. Suppose.
Well, I mean, he got his thumb and his finger around a player's throat. I don't know if he could. Like, I'm pretty sure I could escape the choking grasp of Bobby Knight. Like, it doesn't seem like a hard thing to do. It seems like you're giving him more like you're being more respectful of him than rather just fucking judo throwing him over your shoulder.
Yeah. Were you in danger? If so, react.
Which I would like to see Bobby Knight just ragdolled by a 6'7" point guard.
Is he still alive?
Yeah. I believe so. He went to Texas Tech, which of course they're gonna like that. It's like finally a man in basketball.
Yeah. What do you want me to bring to the team? Just violence. Do what you do best.
I don't know. The good things I hear about Bobby Knight, we grew up with him, so he was kind of a character there. But like all his players graduated, so he did a good thing with that. But like he never. Like, not many of his players went on to be like stars in the NBA, but so that was kind of his down thing. He's like, he's not a great recruiter, but he is like a good like, hey, you're gonna get through college and be all right afterwards, and you're gonna hate me because I'm gonna push you to the limits because you are not the best basketball player in this league. So,
well, he was a guy immediately. I always wonder like how bad were they or weren't they? Because it's like, oh, he had a contentious relationship with the press, which means they will always amplify the worst things about you forever because you won't give them interviews. So they'll be like, well, he's a bastard, and we have someone here who's going to tell you why. And I mean, he did a lot of crazy stuff himself, but all those sports guys are fucking nuts. They're way too passionate about silly things like games. And yeah, and if you get on the wrong foot with the press, they're just going to crucify you every chance they get. And the fans are going to love you. I mean, that's, again, look who was our last president. I mean, that's all just the fans loving someone. Like, yeah, he's going to tell them how it is. It's like, okay. So,
yeah. Unfortunately, like sports fandom has invaded everything, and it's like, wait,
Yeah,
no, this is terrible. Don't do that. You're creating unnecessary divisions for a completely fictional rivalry.
Yeah, it's fun to see who wins and loses the like sports game. However, when you transcend that over politics, it's like, what could be determined here? What if the one guy wins? It's like, I don't know, global Armageddon, the destruction of modern civilization, maybe, who knows? Mass murder in our country for like no real reason. I don't know.
Well, if you like what you heard, and how can it you can find us at podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/Verhoeven Effect, or go to Google, search Verhoeven Effect, or go to verhoeveneffect.com. It'll take you to the right spot. Because remember, Anchor.fm now got changed to Podcasters by Spotify or something like that. So it's us and Rogan. We're on the same level now.
We're on the same network.
You can rate you can rate our podcast. You can rate us whatever you want, but remember, the only thing the algorithm will listen to is the highest rating. Remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. We also have listener support at verhoeveneffect.com, where you can support us at a monthly stipend at either 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. Find us on Twitter at Verhoeven Effect, Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory. Watch both this and that show live and unedited. And we have t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.